My mom, Allison Ramsey, runs an adult novelty store. One day I was so wiped out that I nodded off inside, only to wake up accidentally trapped in one of those mechanical pleasure beds. When Mr. Palmer from next door walked in, he mistook me for the store's latest doll and started pulling down my booty shorts. Chapter 1. I'm heading out to pick up some inventory. Can you watch the counter for a bit? The faint sound of Mom's voice reached my ears, and I mumbled a few vague responses before sinking into a deep sleep. I had no idea how long I had been out, but when I woke up I felt like something was wrong. I was lying face down on the bed, my hands secured with something soft and rubbery, and the bed itself had shifted, contorting into an unusual position that molded perfectly to my curves. I could clearly feel that my butt was raised high, and my legs had been spread apart. I didn't need to look to know it was a humiliating position. The space in front of me was dim, as though my head was covered by a nearby curtain. What was going on? A wave of panic set in. I struggled with all my strength against the restraints binding my hands, only to realize I couldn't break free at all. Finally dawned on me that my family ran an adult store, and this must be the new pleasure bed we'd recently ordered. The bed was equipped with mechanisms that, once triggered, could only be unlocked remotely. I had been completely exhausted earlier, so I just crashed on a random bed in the storeroom without even noticing it was the latest model. I usually sleep on my stomach and toss and turn, so I must have accidentally triggered the mechanism while dozing off, and now this single bed had locked my hands in place. The bed split into two below my waist, lifting my lower abdomen and hips and leaving my rear raised high. It was as if I was positioned for, what was I supposed to do? I shouted a couple of times, but there was no response. It only then struck me that before I fell asleep, Mom mentioned she was going out to pick up stock and asked me to watch the shop. Hey, Allison. Just then, I suddenly heard the voice of Mr. Palmer, a customer, coming from the doorway, and it was getting closer. Oh no, Mom did say Mr. Palmer would come by later to settle up. Panic surged through me. I struggled desperately, only to find that while the restraints looked soft, there was no way to slip out of them. Where is everyone? I thought I told them I'd come by to pay my tab today. Mr. Palmer's voice drew closer and closer until it sounded just a few steps away. Frozen in this compromising position, I felt my face flush crimson. Paralyzed by panic, I froze completely, not daring to move a muscle. Is this a new doll that just arrived? Mr. Palmer's words sent my heart leaping into my throat. The next second, I felt a pair of warm, dry hands land on my thigh. They slowly slid upward until they were inside my shorts. The weather was sweltering, so naturally I was dressed for the heat. My booty shorts were barely long enough to cover my cheeks. The texture feels pretty good. It's quite realistic and even warm, Mr. Palmer remarked as he fondled me. The bizarre sensation made me clench my teeth, too afraid to make a sound. If anyone were to discover I was being mistaken for a doll, my life would be over. But then, to my horror, I felt those hands beginning to tug at the waistband of my shorts. Chapter 2. Booty shorts are naturally tiny, and for comfort while sleeping, I hadn't even tied the drawstring. In fact, they could be shimmied off with just a gentle tug. I didn't expect it to feel so real. This new batch of dolls really is something else, Mr. Palmer said excitedly. He seemed to be leaning right over me from behind, and I could distinctly feel the warmth of his breath as he exhaled. My heart raced with a mix of panic and anger, yet I didn't dare move a muscle. I was terrified of the embarrassment that would follow if I got caught. What should I do? What on earth could I do? Mr. Palmer had already pulled down my shorts, leaving only my thin underwear underneath. It even has panties, and with a lace trim too. Mr. Palmer's voice grew increasingly excited. He kept stroking my backside, and the warmth of his touch made my heart pound wildly in my chest. Suddenly, I felt something warm, damp, and soft press against my thigh. Was that Mr. Palmer's mouth? In that instant, it hit me like a lightning bolt. Realizing this possibility, I was flooded with shame and panic. Yet, for some reason, I also felt a faint, thrilling ripple of excitement. My rational mind screamed at me to shout out loud and stop Mr. Palmer right now, but another voice inside me told me I should absolutely not do that. Mr. Palmer must have mistaken me for a doll. If he were to find out now, how embarrassing would that be? How could I ever face him again? We were neighbors and saw each other almost every day, so I really shouldn't have let things get this far. Mr. Palmer ran the antique shop next door and had always carried himself with a scholarly air. Other than that, he was also a gentle, dignified, and handsome older gentleman. So, surely he wouldn't do anything to a doll in the storeroom, would he? I silently prayed that as long as I wasn't discovered, it would be fine. I just needed to stay still and endure this a little longer. This thigh is so smooth. Where is this from? I'll have to ask Allison later. I want to buy one too. Perhaps too excited. Mr. Palmer's warm breath brushed against the back of my knees as he spoke, raising goosebumps all over my skin. The next second, I suddenly felt a pair of warm hands cup me between my legs. The abrupt sensation made me twitch involuntarily. Once the shock wore off, a wave of cold dread washed over me. Oh no, had Mr. Palmer noticed? Huh? This doll actually quivers in response. Wow, it's so lifelike and high-tech. Mr. Palmer seemed particularly thrilled, and in one swift move, he pulled down my underwear. I closed my eyes in despair. Who could have imagined that, at this very moment, I would be lying half naked before a man? A wave of immense shame washed over me, but the more it swelled, the more I dared not make a sound. There had still been room to back out earlier. Now there truly was nothing left. All I could do was silently pray that Mr. Palmer would leave soon, and that he wouldn't do anything more extreme. Mr. Palmer was extremely close to my crotch. I could clearly feel the warmth of his breath fanning over me, causing my body to tremble involuntarily. Besides shame, I also felt a secret thrill. Realizing this only added to my panic. Thrall, how could I be feeling this way? Mr. Palmer gasped. Why does this backside remind me of rubies? That single sentence struck my brain like a bolt of lightning, freezing my thoughts in an instant. My mind went completely blank, and my entire body stiffened as if turned to stone. What did Mr. Palmer mean by that? Had he realized it was me? How would he even know what my backside looked like? What was going on? Just what in the world was happening? Soon after, I felt those warm hands continuously caressing my butt, even grazing gently with a fingernail over my most sensitive spot. I was a grown woman, so of course I had needs of my own from time to time, but Mr. Palmer's rough, slightly calloused hands felt entirely different from my own touch. I bit down hard on my lower lip, trying desperately to ignore the waves of arousal rising within me. How could this be happening? Why was I so much more sensitive today than usual? Mr. Palmer's breathing grew heavier, his warm breath continuously brushing against my skin. A wet, hot sensation slid slowly across me, and I could clearly feel his hands kneading repeatedly. Help! Someone please help me! My mind screamed in silence, felt as though my heart was being torn in two. One part of me was screaming to stay quiet, caught in the pleasure of the moment. Then I felt his hands pull away. away, followed by the faint rustling sound of a belt buckle. My heart leaped into my throat. A moment later, something hard and heated pressed firmly against my